At the very outset, my apologies to all those who are watching and listening now or later. If I look and sound unusually disheveled, it's because I'm feeling a bit under the weather. But I didn't think this was worth rescheduling or not doing, so please bear with me. Now to the subject at hand. Mm, I think that we are all faced with various situations in life where, depending on the kind of coping mechanism we use, and whether that's positive or negative, can be a direct reflection of our emotional maturity and resilience. I can tell you from personal experience that, not having been very emotionally intelligent, I have been at the receiving end of some of my most regrettable life decisions and developments. I went to a boarding school which did a lot of good for me, but I also know how profoundly it impacted me, just in terms of its sort of negative influence, because not because that institution was bad, but because I was unsure of who I was. Similarly, when I began college at the beginning of Delhi University, is when I essentially, to put it crudely, out of sheer insecurity, started smoking, a habit that has been a chronic addiction now for decades and decades. And I think that, although I'm generalizing, it might be fair to say that if an individual has a robust and developed and healthy emotional quotient, he or she is much less likely to succumb to and fall prey to these kinds of things. I think we could also agree that in today's environment, in today's contemporary modern world, children are faced with a multitude of pressures, conscious and unconscious, a lot more varied and a lot more intense than we ever did when we were at that age and stage in our lives. From the fact that there's digitization to the looming threat and uncertainty that advents like artificial intelligence bring upon the futures of these young kids and this generation, to a very, very heightened, almost toxic pressure for marks and performance. I mean, there are countless sort of stimuli and sources of this distress. And I think that it's only fair, therefore, that there is perhaps now more than ever a need for us to develop and focus on the emotional quotient and intelligence of our children, and rather than looking at it from a negative lens of, oh my God, ye pehle kabhi nahi hua, oh my God, ab karna padega, I think it might be worth seeing it really, genuinely as an opportunity for us to undo some of the things that have been done in the past, and as a huge opportunity to arm our children with the requisite tools that they need in order not just to navigate some of these pressures that they are bound to encounter, but also thrive in and despite them. And I'm so happy that the individual joining us to discuss this is herself a young, recently qualified psychologist who's also a writer, content creator, reader, wears multiple hats. And it's always important, I feel, to get perspectives on certain segments and domains from individuals who themselves, to a large extent, inhabit that realm. So I would like to, with big thanks, welcome Sunidhi, and thank her for her enthusiasm, for making the time, and actually, frankly, for even suggesting this topic, which, as an educator, is in any case very close to my heart. So I jumped at it. And I'm very, very happy that she, of all people, will be sharing her views. So, Sunidhi, thank you very much and welcome.
Thank you for your kind words. Actually, thank you so much. And thanks to you for reaching out and giving me this platform so that we can discuss on such an important topic which needs to be discussed. And thank you so much. And
Absolutely.
I really, like the kind of work and awareness you are trying to create through your platform. It's amazing.
Thank you. That means a lot, Sunidhi. Now, I think it's important that, one big sort of goal of ours, as I might have shared with you offline also, is जो भी हम discussions करते हैं उसके साथ साथ एक थोड़ा सा fundamental psycho education भी होते रहे. And so, sometimes when clinicians such as yourself come in, there's a tendency of using certain terms and jargon which are less understood by common people. So let's begin by simply trying to define in the most layman terms as possible, from you being a psychology expert, emotional intelligence hai kya?
Okay, so in simple terms, for everyone, emotional intelligence, or the question we say, is the ability to understand, manage, and express one's emotion.
Hmm,
Okay, and how to regulate them in the correct way so that it influences others. So the basic thing is, if I'm feeling a certain emotion, how I'm trying to able to process it, what is my self awareness, and what kind of impact the I'm gonna leave by the actions on the others about that emotion.
hmm.
So emotional intelligence have different components like self awareness, regulation, motivation, empathy. So all these come together to create emotional intelligence. That's in the simple term we can say is emotional intelligence.
Thank you. That's very, very clear and well explained. So, just to contextualize this, जिससे हमारी understanding और भी sort of clear हो जाए, uh, एक सेम सिचुएशन में अलग अलग इंडिविजुअल्स का काफी डिफरेंट रिस्पॉन्स हो सकता है, डिपेंडिंग ऑन देयर लाइफ्स कंडीशनिंग एक्सपीरियंसेस वगैरह वगैरह टिल दैट पॉइंट. एंड
Right.
उस पर्टिकुलर इंडिविजुअल का इमोशनल क्वोशंट किस हद तक डेवलप हुआ है या नहीं हुआ है, फॉर दैट मैटर.
Right. Correct.
Hmm. अगेन, इन योर प्रोफेशनल ओपिनियन, हालांकि मैंने कुछ कारण आउटलाइन किए थे, बट आई वुड लाइक टू नो फ्रॉम यू, why do you feel that today especially it is so, what are some of these crucial reasons for which it is a good idea for children of today to work on and develop their emotional intelligence? ये क्या हैं कुछ कारण जो इस डेवलपमेंट को जरूरी बना रहे हैं?
Um, I think the crux is the fast life
हम्म.
today's children are living. Very technology based, very digital, very screen based. You know, they have 500 friends online, but not a single one offline so that they
हम्म.
can share anything.
हम्म.
And I have seen it.
हम्म.
I'm not someone from very old generation,
हम्म.
but even in last 10 years or 5 years, the sudden growth of technology has changed it that I cannot correlate with the children
हम्म.
5 year younger than me.
हम्म. हम्म.
And I think that's the crux. They don't want to share what they're feeling because somewhere they're not even, understand how to vocalize it, how to express it. And that's where the problem come. You know, uh, the schools, the competition, the online comparison, validation seeking, it has actually, get into the mind of children that this is the life. But people need to understand that emotional intelligence come with eye contact, skin contact, play, touch. You cannot replace emotional intelligence with the screen. And that's where the problem starts.
हम्म.
Also, the, family situations, the lack of outside playing, going for actually even tuitions or
mm,
something like that, where you actually have human contact, it has
mm,
become so less
mm,
that, children are tend to become isolated.
mm.
And that's where the problem actually arises.
So I
And
think you would agree that in this particular aspect, even the fact that unfortunately more and more families are also moving from joint setups to more nuclear
nuclear.
families. And I'm not blaming anybody. It's obviously happening because, one is. Has certain goals and aspirations. One moves from their relatively smaller towns and cities to larger places for greener pastures, career opportunities. तो होता ही है कि भाई आपकी extended family and including your parents sort of stay behind in your native place, and then you end up in a Bombay or a Delhi or a Bangalore or abroad.
Correct, correct. And that's why I think school is a place that still has a number of physical contact children can come in. Still there are classes, the offline classes, the sports period, and everything. And that's where we can actually start teaching kids the emotional intelligence. Because most of the time, till your 12th grade, you are spending most of the time in schools only. And that's where we can actually, plant that seed for the emotional intelligence, which will actually help them grow emotionally.
Now, school ki baat karke, you've given me the perfect link and segue to come to my next point, which is ki once we've established emotional intelligence kya hai, and we broadly agree that aaj ke zamane mein iski bahut zyada zarurat hai, the next natural thing is how, where, and by whom will it be done. अनफॉर्चुनेटली हम बहुत सारे सिनारियोज में इस स्थिति में हैं दैट we will have typically very busy parents. Why? As opposed to earlier, because now in most scenarios, whether out of necessity, whether out of those same goals and aspirations that I referred to just now, you will find more and more cases where both husband and wife are working. You will
Right.
find more and more cases where अच्छा एक तरफ दोनों हस्बैंड वाइफ वर्क कर रहे हैं, पर ऐसा नहीं है कि घर पे दादा दादी या नाना नानी हैं. सो मेरा कहने का सिंपल सा मतलब ये है दैट द पेरेंट्स देयरफॉर वेदर दे कॉन्शियसली से नहीं 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 हमारे पास टाइम नहीं है इस पे काम करने के लिए, या उनके पास जेन्युइनली टाइम और अपॉर्चुनिटी नहीं है इस पे काम करने के लिए. नाउ यू वेरी वेरी करेक्टली ब्रॉट अप द स्कूल, बट स्कूल में ऐसा हो रहा है कि क्योंकि हमारा देश इतना वास्ट है, इतना डाइवर्स है. सो इनफैक्ट एंड आई एम फाइंडिंग माई सेल्फ सेइंग दिस मोर एंड मोर टू माई गेस्ट्स इन डिफरेंट डिस्कशंस. एक तो to generalize something about all of India is almost impossible. So,
Right.
what I'm trying to say is that जिस स्टेज पे वृंदावन है, जिस स्टेज पे जयपुर है, जिस स्टेज पे दिल्ली है, आई मीन सोशियोलॉजिकल स्टेज, वो
Correct.
बहुत अलग अलग स्टेजेस पे है.
True.
सो यहाँ पे फॉर एग्जाम्पल आवर डॉटर गोज टू एन ऑल्टरनेटिव स्कूल. अब वो ऑल्टरनेटिव स्कूल जयपुर में आधे से ज्यादा शहर को पता ही नहीं है दैट स्कूल इवन एग्जिस्ट्स. एंड
Right.
देयरफॉर बिकॉज sociologically the city and most new parents of my city are at a stage where उनके हिसाब से as parents their aspirations are हमारा बच्चा सबसे ज्यादा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चरली अकम्प्लिश स्कूल में जाए.
Mm.
अच्छा फलाने स्कूल में ओलंपिक साइज पूल है वहां भेजो, ये है वहां भेजो. Whereas if the same school was to be in a Bombay or a Delhi, then more people would patronize it because that's the sociological stage they're at. Now,
Correct.
the reason for this complicated background is just as I said that for XYZ reasons, the parents are not being able to give time to work on this emotional intelligence, because a lot of our country is at a stage where स्कूलिंग एंड एजुकेशन का जहां तक सवाल है, वो स्टेज अभी बहुत दूर है कि स्कूल मैनेजमेंट्स और उनसे जुड़े हुए एजुकेटर्स इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस के इंपॉर्टेंस को प्रायोरिटाइज करें. क्योंकि उनका फिलहाल प्रायोरिटी है कि मार्क्स, ग्रेड्स, a lot of schools are in the process of getting international boards. So all those transitions, so घर पे नहीं हो सकता है, स्कूल पे नहीं हो सकता है, तो कहाँ होगा और कैसे होगा?
I guess that's very complicated situation you have put to front. But if I'll talk about home,
हम्म,
I agree that both the parents are nowadays working, which I completely, support. Everyone have their goals and aspirations, and that's totally fine. But on the other hand, I have this, thing in my mind that parents need to understand that children are children's, not young adults, not tiny adults. They need their growth, they need their support, they need that even 10 minutes of your time, just listen them. What happened? How are they feeling? Just a little catch up can actually be, make a difference.
yeah,
Now, not home, then school. I clearly understand we still don't have that kind of policies, that kind of awareness in schools. And actually, even if we see our economical situation of our country, many children are still not going to school.
हम्म,
So
हम्म,
that's a very complicated term, you know, financially,
Hmm.
population
And
wise.
in any case, sorry, I'm interrupting you, and I don't mean to sound elitist या मैं किसी एक segment को bracket नहीं करना चाहता, पर ऐसे बहुत लोग हैं जो, like you're very rightly saying, a lot of kids are still not going to school, पर ऐसे इतने सारे लाखों की संख्या में लोग हैं जिनके बच्चे स्कूल जा रहे हैं, पर क्योंकि वो उस स्टैंडर्ड और स्तर के स्कूल में जा रहे हैं, जस्ट द एब्सोल्यूट बेसिक free sort of education that the government schools are giving, obviously उन institutions में कोई concept ही नहीं है कि हम इस दायरे में कुछ भी काम करें.
That's very true because even if I see a good private institute, still they don't have school counselors. So normal government schools, we have a long way to go for them. When I see like private school can easily afford, a counselor, but it's taking a very longer time. But I can say that, we don't need a proper curriculum as of
Hmm.
now.
Hmm.
I'm not saying, create a 40-minute
Hmm.
period for children and
Hmm.
sit around and tell them what is emotional
Hmm.
intelligence, what are
Hmm.
emotions. No, just, we can start with very small steps, quick check-ins, asking them, validating their feelings.
Hmm.
You won't, uh, you won't believe. I have heard teachers saying to children who are just crying because of something happened, don't do this drama.
Hmm.
And like drama, I mean, you would just, told them that don't express your emotions.
Absolutely.
And it impacted two things. First, the child. He will stop expressing his feelings. He just became the topic of shame and fun for others. And for the group, who even if another child saw that, he will start, stop expressing his emotion. And this impact, I can't believe teachers still say that to children. If they are not able to punish them physically, you are not have right to punish them mentally also. You can't do that. And
Most
even,
definitely. I mean, you have you've opened a Pandora's box जिसपे मुझे मेरे इतने observations हैं और वो इतने levels पे हैं. Very quickly, I'll share one thing, but I really want to focus on solutions. In fact, not only is what you said something that happens extremely often, sadly, उसमें एक और भी layer होता है जो gender stereotyping का layer होता है. So I have heard teachers
yeah,
tell boys, don't cry like a girl. Now,
exactly,
if you take that statement, वो इतना loaded statement है और इतना biased statement है और इतना patriarchal statement है कि उसकी बात ही हम नहीं कर उसको decode ही नहीं कर सकते हैं. Then there are so many other situations, but I think what you're saying otherwise is absolutely critical and invaluable because um, ये बिल्कुल भी जरूरी नहीं है कि जब हम इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस की बात करते हैं, दैट वी नीड एन एंटायर, लाइक यू सेड, करिकुलम, एंड इवन ऑन द होम फ्रंट, लाइक यू वेरी करेक्टली सेड, क्वालिटी ओवर क्वांटिटी, 10 मिनट स्पेंड करिए. And in fact, on the home front, I also want to add, as a parent to an 8-year-old girl, even if you are not getting any time to spend with your child, the moment the mother and father have had a discussion between themselves and have decided कि हमारे पास एक भी सेकंड नहीं है ना, पर कम से कम हम जिस तरह से खुद बिहेव करेंगे, it will model and demonstrate the correct
Right.
values. That is basically how children learn, because they are sponges and they learn by observation. So even if you don't get to a stage where you have the luxury, let's say, aaj ki duniya mein, of sitting down and actually spending physical time with your children, even if you can do this much, it will be a big thing. Talk to each other in a certain way. Let the father be seen to also be experiencing the entire range of emotions, and not just be this unrealistic tough guy, all those things.
That's very true. Actually, that was something I was going to add on. That children do learn by observation only. I mean, even our play games and how we are talking to others, it comes from parents only. What we are observing at home, like if two people are fighting, what kind of reply we are giving, how we are handling situation, it all comes from parents. And it's not something we are directly teaching. It's just children learning from observation, and that's need to be changed. Even if you are having an argument, show the child that we are two adults, how we sit down and how we discuss it. We are not here to blame each other, we are here to discuss the problem, and that's what child gonna learn, and that's very important.
Absolutely. And similarly, getting back to what you were saying about school, sorry, I get very excited and then my volume goes up. What you were saying about school is absolutely also the case. I mean, see, the thing is that, again, Krisha, my daughter goes to a school where actually it is the only school in Jaipur which has a subject called SEL, social emotional learning. But
That's great.
most schools don't, and that's fine, because
Yeah.
उस लेवल तक पहुंचने में थोड़ा समय लगेगा. We are at a more basic stage right now, but
Right.
even there, by the specific example that you gave of the teacher's comment, even if, just like we are saying, the parents can be mindful about the things they are saying and demonstrating and modeling, similarly, if the teachers at school can be. And then, because they are physically with the children for so much longer, go one or two steps extra, and address this for a few minutes, or use opportunities in their daily interactions to turn them into teachable opportunities in emotional learning, then the job is done.
Correct. It's like, like teacher can ask very simple question. How was your day? How did you feel today? If something happened, what do you feel about the situation? Or maybe just one or two small activities like you have to go home and journal it down. How did you felt at school today? Or giving scenario based activities like a one person have won a competition and other might have failed. Now tell me, as a person, how will you feel about that scenario? These are very very little activities that can actually help children build the emotional intelligence. And even during assembly time, just simple grounding exercises, breathing exercises, it will hardly take 4 to 5 minutes.
Hmm, hmm.
These can actually help children a lot.
Hmm. Absolutely. I think those are all extremely valuable points, especially Abhi jo you mentioned towards the end. Even, and some schools do this. I remember
Yeah.
visiting Sindhya to conduct a workshop in Gwalior, and before dinner time every evening, they have this thing, and they've had it for years and years. It's called Asthachal, and it's a concept they've taken from Gandhi, I believe, where the entire school gets together in their huge open air theater, and a prefect or any boy or any master basically mentions one thought of the day, and then वो essentially in silence the whole student body just stands and reflects on that one thought, and then
Hmm.
they proceed for the meal. So there are so many ways of
Yeah,
doing that, which can be very easily incorporated into the routine of the school, जिससे कि कोई disturbance ना हो.
correct. It's very true. And I have seen very, schools and very other institutions who are taking step towards it. But again, the population, the size of our country, we have still a very long way to go. But I'm happy that, there is an awareness about it, about the mental health. I see on different social media platforms, or even if I'll tell you personally, if I am the one person who have been into mental awareness and the psychologist, it has changed the thought process of my many family members.
Yes,
And that's where it starts from. That one person, that one thought, it changes a lot.
absolutely. I mean, that is that, of course, that same logic of, what we hear in these PSUs कि आप एक लड़की को एक family से पढ़ाइए, and it has this ripple
Correct.
effect. It's very similar. Finally, before we conclude, and you've already made a mention of it, I think it's a very important point. And मुझे फिर से याद आ गया when you said size of our country, the whole concept of having any kind of mental health resource at a school is a fairly recent development in our country. Now, more and more schools, particularly private schools, particularly the schools that are, जो समर्थ schools हैं, you will find that they will have a counselor or a child psychologist or some one resource or the other. Um, I don't feel good all the time pointing out the flaws, but that is something that I see as my job. Now, because ये चीज I think start ही हो रही है अभी, and we are still sort of on that journey and we've just started. Mostly I have found कि schools will have one person, literally that one individual.
Right.
तो अगर आप शेयर उसको रेशियो देखोगे, so it will be one mental health resource versus or is to the entire student body, which may be 500 to 5,000 students. That's number one. Number two, what I've also found myself, and this has been confirmed by a lot of other people to me, is that most of these schools which get this resource permanently on their payroll, ना सिर्फ वो व्यक्ति एनीवे बर्डनड है क्योंकि वो रेशियो इतना, जैसा मैंने कहा, स्क्यूड है. ऑन टॉप ऑफ दैट, इनवेरिएबली दैट person is made to teach the 11th and 12th
Correct.
psychology subject, और उसके
Yeah.
पेपर्स सेट करो, चेक करो, वगैरह वगैरह. So,
Yeah.
I just want to talk, I want you to comment a little bit, not on these problem areas, but more in terms of, see, one aspect, जहां तक मैं समझाऊं, of a mental health resource being on a campus is firefighting. तो जो अनफॉर्चुनेटली जो सिवियर केसेस हैं, वो उनको तो देखते ही हैं, बट उसके अलावा जिस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में अपनी बात हो रही है, if a school gets in a mental health resource, what can that person do on a more sustained and regular basis to enhance the emotional learning of that student body?
First of all, you actually pointed out a very right concern about this. I have seen also the schools where the counselors are getting that examiner duties and stuff going on, which I think is very, wrong towards the children also, and it's very wrong towards the counselor
Yeah.
because the person is for something else there. Secondly, what we can do is, it's my suggestion. First of all, counselor can actually help to psychoeducate the staff.
Hmm.
That's the very first and foremost need. That teachers needs to be aware.
Hmm.
It doesn't come directly just by talking. We can, have these small workshops,
Hmm.
teacher meetings, even, and it should include every staff.
Hmm.
Working staff, teacher staff, principals, no
Hmm.
matter what the post is. Because वो उनके लिए भी अच्छा है. अगर वर्किंग स्टाफ भी है, they will get aware.
Yeah.
उनके भी बच्चे हैं, उनकी भी फैमिलीज है. It will actually,
बिल्कुल.
begin that chain. And it's very important. Secondly, precautions. Always better than cure. We can have that daily, regular workshop for children, and it should be age wise. One auditorium, सबको घुसा देना. No, a psychologist have its way to talk with every age range. Children, adults, adolescents. It's different for everyone. Activities are different for everyone, and that's where it starts. Let the counselor take the in charge of the mental health policies going in school.
Hmm.
Involve them. Don't tell them that you have to do it in a certain way.
Hmm.
Engage with them, take suggestions, and then make it. The counselor might don't know the legalities or the other things,
Hmm.
which most of the time counselor knows
Hmm.
because all the mental health act.
Hmm.
But if you are concerned, please make it a team.
Hmm.
When it comes to mental health, it's not one person's duty. It's always everyone, and in case of children, it's the duty of whole school staff. Also teaching students that you are responsible for each other also, not in the way how you perform or everything. It's about mental health. If you see, if you understand that the peer you are working with, you are studying with having issues, how to use those polite words that you can tell them that you should go and ask for help, you know, and not in a rude way, dude, I think you should go for a therapy. No. Ask, tell the kids that how to talk to other people, how to talk to other children you are studying with.
Hmm.
And that's where it starts. You have to be one team, one school when it comes to mental health, not just a single individual counselor who is one against the thousands of, school students. It will not help, children. And I have seen school counselors burned out because of
Hmm.
this.
Hmm.
How many children comes and everyone's problem is a problem.
Hmm.
There's no small problem,
Hmm.
no big problem. It's a problem. They are facing issues. It's an issue.
Hmm.
And one counselor cannot help thousands of children.
Absolutely. But
And this,
one counselor, as you very rightly said, can begin a process of empowering the entire community.
correct.
Hmm.
We need to be one team, one school when it comes to mental health. Don't, and also it's sometimes like I have seen teachers, not taking counselors seriously. I have seen teachers also doing that.
Hmm.
So that's where I think that first the psychoeducation starts from teachers only.
Yeah.
It starts from the elders in the class. That's when everyone will be able to help the children. And I
Absolutely.
think after that we can actually, create a course out of it and introduce in the schools.
No, I think you said a very, very important part where you said prevention is better than cure. And when it comes to schools and when it comes to mental health, I think that's very, very critical, maybe more than other areas, simply because ऐसे बहुत सारे केसेस होते हैं जहाँ पे मान लो खुदा ना खास्ता कोई हादसा हो गया स्कूल में, then you find this very ugly blame game. पहले
Right.
तो स्कूल मैनेजमेंट उसको हश हश करने की कोशिश करेगा, फिर वो फैमिली और मैनेजमेंट कोर्ट में पहुंच जाएगा वगैरह वगैरह. सो यू नो ऑल ऑफ दैट इज अवॉइडेबल एंड आई फील दैट इट्स सच अ वंडरफुल um, it's such a wonderful sort of piece of work for that school counselor to have to essentially make in what I like to say is a certain amount of sensitization and training
Right.
basic to all
Right.
stakeholders, जिससे कि वो अपने अपने लेवल पे ऑलमोस्ट लाइक मेंटल हेल्थ फर्स्ट एडर्स बन जाए. So,
Correct.
a basic understanding of spotting red flags कि
Hmm.
अच्छा चलो हो सकता है इस बच्चे को कोई ईटिंग डिसऑर्डर है, हो सकता है कहीं सेल्फ हार्म का पॉसिबिलिटी है, हो सकता है घर पे कुछ प्रॉब्लम चल रही है. All these things are easily identifiable with
Correct.
fairly basic and quick and effective training and sensitization.
That's very true.
Hmm. Wonderful. I mean, I think that there is a huge opportunity in this schools hiring that mental health resource. And again, rather than, और मैं अपने आप को समझाने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ, that rather than looking at all the negatives of that situation कि अरे वो क्या करेंगे अकेले 1:1000 and all, there is a lot of opportunity to actually make a significant difference by the ways that you've said and we've discussed just now. Any other thoughts that you have relating to emotional intelligence, particularly in children, before we sign off? जो हो सकता है अपने conversation में अभी तक address ना हुआ हो, मैंने ना पूछा हो.
Uh, Actually, I would say that, you know, the adults, like parents and teachers, actually need to understand somewhere that our their generation, even our generation, is very different from today's children's generation. And that one word can, leave such an impact on children that they will never open up with anyone. And that silent struggle they face on daily basis can lead to many, many negative outcomes. So I will just say, and I'm not blaming anyone, and I'm not saying that everyone is like that. And I understand that no parent, no teacher wants to harm anyone in any way. They just need to be cautious, conscious about all the things they're saying, because you don't know what kind of word, what kind of behavior can leave an impact. And that, as a person, for any other human also, not even a children, it's very, very essential that we, all of us as human, need to understand and learn this. Emotional intelligence is really important beside any gender, anything. It is for humans, not a particular gender, not a particular age. That need to be understood.
That's a wonderful note on which to conclude. It's a very true but positive note, and what I'm really sort of hearing is that if each of us in our capacities just and I know it's easy to say and tough to do, but और कुछ हम ना भी कर सकें, but we each becomes a little bit mindful. I think वो चीजें बहुत सारे उसके एलिमेंट्स और कंपोनेंट्स रिफ्लेक्ट होने लगेंगे. Because like you said, obviously it is no teacher's intention to harm a child, it is no parent's intention to harm a child, but हमारी खुद की कंडीशनिंग की वजह से वगैरह वगैरह की
Correct.
वजह से वो हो जाता है.
True. Correctly framed.
Mm. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Sunidhi. We wish you the very best. Thank you for joining us, and we'll be in touch. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here again. It was a wonderful conversation with you. I hope to see you again soon.
Bye bye.